Welcome to week 6, Landmark.com. So as you can see, what I've got down here is a brake pad warning light, which means I now have to drive, having spent, let's face it, a small fortune on this truck getting it repaired. I now have to take it back for more brakes and pads and whatever else they got to do for it. I'm trying to get super cautious. I'm not used to driving such a big thing. Now I've just spent a small fortune both acquiring and repairing this lorry, which is predominantly designed to add thermoplastic lines onto the floor. In fact, I say predominantly designed, that's all it does. So this thing adds thermo lines onto the floor. And what's ironic is I have, since I started, bitched and moaned about thermoplastic. Not because I really knew a lot about it, but really because I was afraid of using it. I just didn't feel that a hot applied product was the best way forward. Plus, I really hate the idea of an open flame system and hot works, especially if it's an alternative method such as cold applied. And what's ironic about that is, well, for one, here I am driving my thermoplastic lorry, which is my very own thermo lorry, which I didn't want, but kind of did want as well. I don't know, it's an odd feeling. I did want it because I felt like I was missing out, you know, that FOMO thing. Now, I mean, it's sat for 18 months, having had to spend a fortune on it, getting it repaired and roadworthy again. I actually really like it. I took it out the other day, and what was funny is I was talking to Greg Clark and Liam Mead, and they were saying they've actually reduced the number on their fleet. While everyone else is moving away from thermoplastic, there's me actually getting excited about using thermoplastic, which, you know, is the story of my life, isn't it? So anyway, I gotta put my seatbelt on because we're actually coming to the end of the farm up here and we're about to get on the road. So let me, bear with me 1 second. I'm just gonna put the camera down. And we're back. So, as I was saying, everybody else is sort of moving away from thermoplastic, and there's me actually going out, buying one, getting one repaired, and back out on the road for use. But it does actually, adjust my seat, it does actually have some good uses. I mean, one of the key benefits I see of thermoplastic is, well, actually there's a couple. One of the main ones is it dries very, very quickly, but we'll talk a little bit more on that because MMA is actually drying very quickly as well. In fact, we're going to be talking about that later on in the video because we're going to go see the new unveiling of this new MMA machine from Meon, and that promises to cure in around 2 minutes, which is just as quick, if not quicker, than thermoplastic. Oh, another tree. Oh yeah, not having to have a license. Just reminded me because I just hit another tree. The crazy thing is you can drive a 14-ton lorry like this with no HGV license, no MOT, no CPC, no TACO, and no operator's license. And it's MOT exempt. But we've had ours MOT because I'd rather it was safe. And what's crazy about that is I think I've hit, well, there's another tree, 3 things so far today. I think I've hit 3 things all in really. One of them was a pigeon, and to be fair, I had right of way, so definitely it wasn't my fault. That was the pigeon. Yeah, I am not another pigeon about to get squished. I mean, let's face it, if you're a 200-gram pigeon versus a 14-ton lorry, you're going to lose every time. All right, let's head out the village. So this site's a little bit, I would describe it as higgledy-piggledy. What would you say, Lee? Wonky. Wonky donkey. I mean, this is the building, as you can see, gone in here, and it's definitely on the wonk. In fact, that's the straightest bit. Now what we've got to do is we're going to put walkways in, but we're going to bring them out. So what we're starting with is string lining off the edge. So we're going to go 1 meter wide, or sorry, 1.2 meters wide on the walkway between the red lines here. So the little red liney bits in the middle, those are the bits I did yesterday just to mark out roughly where we were going to go. We're now going to shot blast all of this to give us our straight edges. And we've got to come sort of out at an angle to get around the staircases that you see here. So these are going to go along the staircases. It's then going to come in along here. So this is the walkway, and you can see as it goes along the building that the building's not straight. It goes off at quite an angle. Then going to loop around the staircases that we're doing here, Then we string lines along here. So we're about to get started with the shot blasters, but I don't know if you guys can see the angle in that picture of how it's going to go sort of out, straight, in, straight. It's got to go a little bit sort of all over the place. Same with over here, for example. So this one, we're going to come off the walkway of the stairs, come along the side. This is now staying permanently here, which means the walkway now has to come off at a sideways sort of angle. We haven't got enough width, technically, I don't think, between here and here. But that's where it's got to go. So the walkway will have to go through there now. So we'll pull that part in. Some of the other bits are a little bit tighter. My concern is it's going to look unsightly because we'll have to literally come around the back of the skip, across here, in, around and into this. And I feel that like the walkway's there to segregate people, machinery, stock, that sort of thing. That's the purpose we want to put it in. We want to protect people and provide segregation. But we have a risk here that's minimized because they can't get past this conveyor. Not for trying, they've tried. There's a big old bash in it, but they can't get past. So in fact, they can't get past this one over here. So this is the attempt there. So this, I think, will actually be the furthest point that the forklifts come to, is to load onto here. So I don't think you need a walkway on this side because I don't think you need to segregate people from plant and equipment. The machinery itself is barriered off, that's protected and it's got guarding in place. Pedestrians, I think, should be free to walk around in this area because you can't actually fit the MHE in this area anymore. The only risk we have is going between this staircase here, comes in front of the spray booth up to this staircase, and apparently this is now all staying in place. Now, that's fine. If it needs to stay in place there, it needs to stay in place, but we want to make it look good still. So our walkway's got to sort of come along here, sort of out a little bit in front of the spray booth, and I'm just going to stop it here because although I need to get to that staircase, they are going to bring a forklift through this little piece here. They don't want a zebra crossing going round. They don't want lines on an angle, and they do need to keep the acrylic paint IBC here with the bunded tank and this little paint pot as well. All of that has to stay. The last little bits, we've just got to go round machinery, up the side of the guarding to the control panel in the corner. There's a control panel this side here. So again, we run all the way along the side or along here, up to these control panels. And that's pretty much it. So with these, we run a 3-phase power supply that runs into the shot blasters and the grinders. They're 3-phase. In fact, one of the vacuums is also 3-phase, but we've also got some 110 vacuums. So they have a 110 transformer from 230 volts. And that's, to be honest, they're good for the small shot blasters like this. You only really need the 3-phase vacuum when you're running the grinders because there's sometimes just so much dust that comes up with them, especially if you're using the big grinders or the larger shot blasters, then definitely you need it. Our ones are the S210 Impacts shot blasters, so a 200mm wide, 3-phase, 16 amp. So what we're gonna do is first thing we do is we always roll off all the cables. Now we run off a cable drum. You can put it on some stilts, unroll it, really nice and easy. Now the customer's got 3-phase power here. Normally we would bring a generator if we needed to bring our own power, but they said they're happy for us to use that power here. So first thing we're gonna do, I say we run off the cables. We just check the cables, make sure that there's no damage, there's no breaks, kinks, tied knots, sort of anything else inside it. And the easiest way to do it, honestly, put on a pair of gloves. You don't want to cut yourself, but just run your hand down the cables. You're sort of pulling it through. You'll find anything sharp. Like if you've got the gloves on, that you'll use that and feel anything sharp, any sort of nicks and cuts and damage or anything else you can feel through it. If you do, then obviously you can't use it. You've got to check it, repair it, whatever else you need to do. You can cut and join them, but to be honest, I typically don't. I'll just make a shorter cable out of it maybe and, add plug on the end, like a commando, plug it in that way, and then I can always pull it apart and have a shorter and longer because you don't always want a long cable, do you? So this is one of our vacuum grinder setups. So we've got a 3-phase grinder that we're going to be using. It's got a 200mm wide head on it, or 250 I think, I can't remember which one, but roughly 2 to 250. It must be the 250 actually. What we're going to be doing is grinding between this red line here and this red line here, grind this center out because it does a really nice job, to be fair. Now the shot blaster's great, and we'll use the shot blaster for all the edge lines, but this is nice and quick for the middle just to get everything tidied up really, really quickly. And then we use the shop blaster for the straight edges. The grinder's gonna be much better for this part as well. This is kind of oily and grubby, and we don't really want that going into the shop blaster. The grinder will do a better job of cleaning this area up. You can see the grinding disc we're going to be using on these. Now, obviously these come in all sorts of different hardnesses, designs, styles, depending on what you're going to go for. PCDs, for example, are really, really aggressive and great. This one's a bit of a softer one actually, but you know what, it'll do absolutely fine for this floor. This is what we want to use. So if you're doing surface removal, you might go for something a bit more aggressive than this one, but we're only talking just the very top of the concrete we're tidying up on this, so we don't need to go too aggressive. We don't really want to cut in and remove anything. So to start these up, once we've got the power supplies connected, nothing's actually connected yet, all we then do is we can press the buttons, that'll start it up. So you just literally press like that, that'll start, press here to stop. You've also got a little dead man switch, so for these here you can just tie this onto your trousers, your shorts, and if you move too far, pulls out, and that cuts the machine out for us as well. Now it's important to check, obviously, when you're using the machine, just make sure you've got your phase rotation right on it, but also make sure you've got your safety features in. So if you're using the dead man switch like you've got on these ones here, make sure you've got everything ready. Check the machine over, look for anything that's going to sort of cause any damage. So we want to make sure there's no string, no rope, nothing hanging off the end of it. We want to make sure we haven't got bits like this on it, so we'll just take these off. This is a vacuum attachment, so we can go to different size vacuum hoses on here as well. Sorry, a bit of a bang with that. And yeah, just make sure everything's okay and kosher before you get started with it. So check the vacuum. Next, we're just going to check the grinder itself. Make sure we've got power supply to it. We haven't checked the power. There we go, power's on. So we can now run the vacuums. We'll get this started up first, then we'll turn the shop blaster and the grinder on and run those. So what we'll do, we'll get this roughly into position where we're going to start, and I'll grind out a small area here for you and show you exactly what this looks like. So when we're using the grinder, we use a sort of back and forward motion that you can see John doing here, and that's just going to spread out over a wide area, do a nice, even, sort of smooth finish for us, so it looks pretty good. Then we're going to run our shop blaster across the edges, and that's going to give us the nice, sharp, defining edge. So we've actually decided to change over from the grinder to the shop blasters. We weren't getting the finish that we wanted on this floor. What we need is a rough finish. I know I say I want it looking smooth. Actually, what I mean by that is I don't want to see tram lines from the shop blaster. That's what I mean by I want it to look smooth. But actually, we need the floor to look rough. So this is the finish we want. Now, we're actually not really seeing the tram lines on this, and this is one of the things I'm always conscious of when we're shop blasting. You can see there's a slight difference where we've gone up, but not massive. Really, it's jobs like this one where we're doing like a meter wide walkway. That's where a bigger shop blaster would really do us a lot of favors. Like the S320 would be fantastic for this because it's wider. We get a 300mm width. You know, we could do this in 4 passes, give or take. Whereas because we're only going 200 at a time, we're actually going to probably do 6 passes in total really on this one, because there is a slight overlap, obviously. So it does take a little bit longer with the small shop blaster. But when we look at the cost difference between this machine that we already had, which is perfect for the straight 100mm wide lines, upgrading to one of the bigger shop blasters, it was like another 20 grand. And you sort of look at it and go, well, how long will it take me to make that money back? If it speeds the job up by a day, maybe you might make the money back pretty quickly, but it depends how many jobs like this you're doing. What we're going to do is push this along and essentially collect all of this up to be recycled. So if I push this machine along here, it's essentially just a magnet, and all you need to do, you can raise and lower by just loosening the nuts on here, and you can raise and lower it from the ground. As I push it along here, you'll see we'll go over this area, and it will literally collect all that shot from the ground. we're ready to paint now is the middle piece, as I mentioned. So this is going to be green for us. So this will all go into green. Once this is done, we'll move the inside bits of tape here. They'll go on top of the green to create our 100mm gap. So we've got 50mm here, 50mm here, and then it'll give us our nice 100 all the way along in yellow, and it will look absolutely amazing once that's done. Hey guys, it's week 6, and I'm at the farm well, we've got a ride on spray machine and a ride on unit, and I'm off to Amazon in the morning, so I've got to get everything ready and head off down there. I've got to be there for 6 AM down in Dartford. Jesus Christ! Bloody hell, that was a hell of a bump. Anyway, got to get down there and get everything sprayed in tomorrow morning bright and early. Doesn't look rough, but some of these speed bumps are serious. Anyway, the 5900, after I said about how it never went wrong and been amazing, well, the pump went wrong. Well, the packing's on the pump anyway. So we had to have it redone after I did it myself, but it didn't work. Anyway, I'm going to stop filming because I'm definitely going to crash otherwise. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to get down to Amazon Dartford. I'll be honest, I'm pretty tired. I'm not built for this sort of thing anymore. I mean, I'm 36 years old, and I've got to say, I actually struggle with these sort of early mornings like this. Whoa, not for me. Anyway, we're going to head down to Amazon. We've got 2,500 linear meters to install today, so a pretty big job. Let's head down there and just crack on with it, because there's a lot to get in. All right, we made it down to Amazon in Dartford, got the paperwork, the permits, everything else signed. You know what's really cool though? Me and JB, now, by the way, you guys can't call him JB, that's just between us. He has me in quite a bit. In fact, these are some of the lines that we've put in previously around all the drains. So we've got the work permit required, the drain signage and bits and pieces on here. Anyway, let's get into it and I'll show you exactly what we're up to on this little install of 2,500 linear meters of line markings. Let's do it. This is coming up the end of the second line, and I can't look because I'm too busy staring at the line. You get like tunnel vision when you're doing this because you stare so intently at like the laser dot or the paint going down on the ground, going over the existing point, that you actually develop like a tunnel vision. So it's kind of hard to keep concentration on it. But hey, we're actually doing pretty good. Second line in, I think this is about 15 minutes now because I had to fill up with paint and I had to talk to one of the drivers that was going past, make sure they didn't go over the lines. But we're about coming back up to the start now. Let's see if we can read on the screen what we're up to. Yeah, the screen's pretty much covered in paint and tried cleaning it with thinners, but obviously that didn't work out so well for the front of the screen. It's just like a plasticky protective film thing, but you can peel it off and replace it. Anyway, we're at the van. I realise now I'm actually going to be done much quicker than I thought, so I'm going to have to pull my pickup out of the way, park the other side of this line, and then I can carry on with the rest of the work. So I'm going to be done in like 15 minutes, and I want to get going. So I'm going to actually move the truck because guarantee I'm going to get stuck in otherwise. All right, it's actually been a pretty good morning. Took me longer to drive down than it has to paint in 2.5 kilometers. And we've got one more line there. And then I'm just going to do a little bit extra around the corner and just put it in. They've asked me if I can. I said yeah. I mean, they've asked if I can do all the lorry bays while I'm here. Now there are 300 and nearly 400 lorry bays on top, but there's no way I've got enough product for that. I mean, 400 lorry bays, they're around 17 meters, but they've also got hatch lines. Let me show you. Like each of the lorry bays has got a hatch line as well. So it's not, you know, it's not just the 17 meters, it's actually probably another 10 meters again in each bay just for the hatch lines. So there's, yeah, there's a fair whack to put in there, so I can't do that one today. Plus that would add, I mean, tens of thousands to the job, and well, I'm happy to do a few bits and, you know, invoice at the end. Yeah, that's a bit much. Alrighty, let's get the last bits in. The very end of the site, and as you can see, the walkways run all the way in. I'll just show you the other side. There's a guy on a forklift, so nothing coming. Show you this side is in as well, runs all the way along the end of the store, all the way up here to the very end as well. So the very last bit we've got is I've added this line in, security runs all the way along, and now the guy on the forklift's finished. All I've got is this one little bit in front of his entrance to do. We couldn't paint it a minute ago because he was been loading his stuff in. So all I'll do is I'll just line up and I'll paint this one in as well. That is one completed site, 2,500 linear meters installed of walkway lines on both sides here at Amazon in Dartford. So pretty good morning, and it's only 9:30 now, so actually I've been here an hour all in. That's pretty good. I'm happy with today's haul. The other guys are doing a line mark install back in Nuneaton, so I think they're just about finished. There's the start of the lines just there. So yeah, pretty good going. Right, so that's pretty much everything done. We're signed out. 2,500 linear meters installed in, I want to say 25 minutes. Pretty quick. Now, it was made possible with a great ride-on system, which really sped things up. Now, I don't use that ride-on system really ever, except when I'm grinding, but I figured I'd use it today because quite a big thing to do with the 2,500 linear, and it really did speed things up. Also kept things really nice and straight, and actually what we use to keep things straight is a laser guidance system, and these lasers, they just sit on the side of the machines. In fact, if you guys are interested, you can pick them up at roadlines.co.uk. They're about half the price of anywhere else, and they make your life so much easier. Anyway, that's pretty much it for today's video. I will see you guys in the next one. Welcome to the very end of week 6. Been a fantastic week. Had my car crashed into, had John's van written off, got to go to Paris, got to see some of the Olympics, which was absolutely phenomenal. And of course, back onto a few little installations. This is the last installation for the week. We're going to carry on with this one week 7 next weekend. But let me show you where we got up to this week. So to finish this one off, these are the walkways that we've been installing. These are the ones that you saw me shot blast the other day. So in order to install this, we've run in the lines absolutely everywhere across the site. In fact, I'll go up onto the stairs because I can probably show you a little bit better, although it is pretty dark because, sorry, I'm pointing the camera up. I can't find, well, I've got the light switch, but the lights are on a timer. So as you saw what we were doing, we were shot blasting everything in. Then we did the taping out. Now, one of the things I was showing you on the taping out is we tape the edge line, if you like, sort of here, like the yellow. Then we do the next sort of inside line. We paint the green, and then we move the tape back over to create the 100mm edge. So as you can see these lines all the way down the warehouse, just here. And again, apologies, it is a little bit dark, but looking phenomenal, I think. Same over this side, if you guys can see there. In fact, I'll take you to that staircase, show you that side as well. So here's the walkway running beneath us, all the way up to this end up here, looking absolutely phenomenal. So for week 7, we're gonna be in the far side for phase 2, doing the line markings there. That one's gonna be a little bit more bitty, I think. This one, I think, looks much, much better. The original plan for this was a walkway running right across, and they decided they didn't want that. They want to be able to get a forklift in and not cross a walkway, but don't want a zebra crossing. So instead, they've got a gap, if you like, in the middle. And I think it'll work out just fine, actually. So anyway, this is the walkway. We've got the 1 meter gap for this little green part. Then you've got 10 centimeters either side, giving us a 1.2 meter wide walkway absolutely everywhere you go. I did mention about tram lines, and as I was saying with the shot blasting, one of the things you can get is a tram line along the where you sort of run the machine. That's why we have a grinder as well. So the shot blaster does a fantastic job of cutting everything in. The grinder just smooths it to make it a consistent sort of flow all the way across. Now, when I say smooth, obviously the floor itself is rough, and we want it rough so that the paint sticks to it. We say smooth just to get rid of those tram lines. That's essentially what we mean by smoothing it. But yeah, I'm thinking this looks pretty phenomenal. In fact, I'm really, really happy with it. You guys know I like to end the week with a question, and this week's question came through on YouTube, and it's simply, hi Alex, nice video. I wish you would go into a little bit more detail on the sealers and the cost for the warehouse work. Thank you, Al. Well, that's an interesting question to ask. So this one here, we've got an epoxy product going on the floor. Now, we use a variety of different products, and I like the epoxy, so the finish we get is really nice and smooth. It's really, really good. It's economical enough as well to use on a large scale. If you were going for a 2-part, you probably wouldn't bother putting a sealer on the top of this, to be fair. So the 2 parts we use, we don't have to put a sealer on. Same with the resin-based products as well. It depends what you're going to do. Some of them we have a sealer for, some of them we don't. It really varies on the product. One of the ones we've used extensively was Velivine's Velimark. That's a 2-part epoxy, and you don't need any sealer whatsoever. You just put it, in fact, I don't even know if there's a sealer for it. You just put it straight down onto the shot blast or ground floor. That's all you have to do with it. So for this one, in terms of what do we do for sealing, and the second question, what does it cost? I start with, how to seal it and what we do. When we're installing, as you guys saw, we start with the shot blasting, and once we've got that done, we do the taping out. Then we're gonna do the priming. Now the priming for this one on the concrete, we're gonna start, let's say up this end here, and we're gonna prime the entire length of the installation. So all along here, all along this edge, up here as well. Then we're gonna prime all of that side, and we'll do all of that in one go. That process will probably take us an hour just to get the primer down on the ground. Maybe a little bit longer, but a good hour, I would say, just to get that down. Now we'll only prime the center point of this bit because that's the only bit we're painting. Once that's the primer's down on there, what we're gonna do is start the painting. So if you imagine it takes us a good hour just to get through all this with primer, by the time we get back to the start again, it's dry. I mean, to be fair, it's dry within about 5 to 10 minutes. So an hour, it's absolutely rock solid. It's perfect for us. Then we're gonna start the painting. Now the painting for this one, we do everything by hand. That's my process for indoors. Now, when it comes to the sealers, one of the things I would say you need to really consider when you're applying a sealer, so this one's a single part of sealer. As I was saying, we do the priming first, 2 coats of paint, then we've added the sealer on top. Now, when you put the sealer on, you've got to make sure everything is completely cured. And this product here is taking maybe 90 minutes per coat. We've got 2 coats down, so by the time we've painted everything through, the painting takes longer than the primer, in my opinion. That's probably a 90-minute pass just to get through all the paints that you've got down here, at least to paint this in, probably 90 minutes. So by the time we get back to the start, 90 minutes later, it's cured. Then we can start the second layer. By the time we get back, it's another 90 minutes, and that's when we're ready to start our sealer. Now, I would at that point go for a cup of coffee, leave it another hour or so, wait for it to really, really, cure properly the way I want it, and that is when I would start applying my sealer. Now, when it comes down to it, I would say the only time I've ever had an issue with a sealer
is when we're doing a hybrid UV, we used a low pile roller and it, I don't know, like picked up inside the sealer. It didn't do a great job and we end up with like a sort of bubbly effect on it. That's the only time I've had an issue with sealing. I would say you need to use a foam roller if you're doing UV, because it just does a much better finish in my opinion. Whereas for everything else, we'd use a low pile roller. But with the sealer, you don't want to go thick. This isn't a paint product. This is just to seal it in at the end. Thinner, in my opinion, is better. And if needs be, do 2 coats of it, but go thinner. Because what you don't want is like that whitish sort of, I don't know what it is. It's like a milky sort of finish that you don't want. You want it looking really smooth and consistent all the way along. And so I would say go thin with it and just go sparing, just push it all the way along. And that's not to say you want to do a disservice to your customer and impact the product in any way. It won't. It'll protect it. But thinner is always better in my opinion on that, and build it up in layers. That's my 2 pence worth. Spend the extra time building it up in layers. So the second part of the question I got there, I appreciate I've been rambling on for 6, 7 minutes there. Pricing, how much do you charge? Now, when it comes down to pricing, like I said, I don't want to sound like a dick, okay? The reality is what I charge isn't what you can charge. And equally, there are companies out there that charge other things way more than me. And I look at it and go, shit, how the hell are they getting away with charging that much money? Now, the reality is when it comes down to your price, it is very individual. And I think, and it's just my 2 pence, seeing as I got asked the question, what you charge has nothing to do with the paint you're using, the staff you've got, the equipment you've got, the years of experience. If you wanted to say, I'm £10 a linear meter, and you can do it for £10 a linear meter, good luck to you, right? To be completely blunt with you, I'll charge 35, okay? Some people look at that and go, that's a lot of money. And I go, yeah, okay, cool. Depends which product we're going for as well. Like if I'm doing you straight lines in your warehouse, I'm £35. If you want infill, it's going to add up even more and more. But also I offer different products that you can use as well, which again, cost more and more money. That's like my cheapest price that I can do is £35 a linear meter, but it goes up from there, not down, it just goes up. And that's my point is, I'll then get sent quotes. So I'll come to these guys and I'll say, hey, this is my price after we measure it all out. And they go, okay, Alex, we've had a price of £10 a linear meter. You're coming in, I mean, this is an infilled one, so it's even more, but for argument's sake, you're coming in at £35 a linear meter. And a lot of people will look at that and go, you know what, I know what Alex is charging, or, line marking over there, whatever are charging, I'll just go £1 less and I'll win the work. Well, that's fucking dumb. I mean, when it comes down to pricing, and I appreciate I'm rambling on a little bit here, when it comes to pricing, there is no benefit whatsoever to being the second cheapest, none whatsoever. There will always be somebody cheaper. And so if your goal is to be, the cheapest, it's a race to the bottom, what's the point? And there's no benefit, I think, to being the second cheapest either. So instead, I don't go for any of that shit. I go right to the top and go, you know what? Other people are doing it for £10 a linear meter. I really want to do it for £50 a linear meter. Now, if I'm doing an infill walkway, that's cool. But if I'm doing straight lines, I go in around £35 and it just goes up from there. And literally, I probably win, depends what your win rate is. I probably average 1 in 4, so 25% win rates. And it comes down to a mix of price versus availability, because that's another big one as well. A lot of people say, hey, we need some line marking, but we need it tomorrow. We need it next week. I'm saying, look, I'm booked up for months. So unless you can wait a couple of months, I can't even, there's no point even taking the conversation further. And that happens. Unfortunately, some people are just disorganized. They literally need it there and then. And that, baffles me. But anyway, when it comes down to your pricing, it's really, really tricky. The easiest way I would say you can set your prices though, if you head over to linemarking.expert, I've actually got a line pricing calculator that tells you exactly how much to charge and everything else.